Frank?
Thank you very much. It's amazing how you pick up speakers for Rotary Club. Uh, as you know, and as I just said, the Imagination Library is one of my favorites. And we try to concentrate our enrollees in the 32804 and now 805, 808, and 810 area codes, zip codes. But I got an enrollment application from somebody outside of that area a while back. And I said, well, I'm not sure that I can make an exception for you, but tell me a little bit about yourself. And she said that she learned about the program, and Tina, help me if I'm wrong here, that you picked up a book from somebody and it had Imagination Library and you learned about it. And so you went online and you sent in your application. And then in responding to me, you said that you, let me see if I can find it right here. You have, I like what Rotary offers the community. I have presented to many of the Rotary clubs in Seminole County, great experience. So I wrote back and said, what do you talk about? So she told me that she was an agent for Florida Friendly Landscaping and that she would be willing to do a program. She said she would bring in Tia Selasy, and Tia, we welcome you also. She's an agent in Orange County. And so we're going to have the two of them make a presentation this morning, and we welcome both of you to Rotary Club of College Park. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. And yes, Frank, that is exactly true. You know, my husband and I are working from home, in and out of the office a little bit, but we have our daughter with us who's 2 years old, and we've been trying to find ways creatively to entertain her. So I went to pick up a whole lot of thrift books, and one of the books had the Imagination Library sticker on it, and I said, well, what is this? And sure enough, it was tied back to Rotary, and you know, I appreciate you guys enrolling my daughter, and it just seems like a fantastic program. So thank you for those efforts. And yes, I am the Florida Friendly Landscaping Agent for the IFAS in Seminole County, and we have had the pleasure to present to for all of the Rotary clubs in Seminole County, and you know, I'm so happy to introduce you as well to Tia Selasy. We've known each other for a long time, and you know, we basically have the same job, just in different counties. So we work together a lot, and you know, really try to kind of work together within the Central Florida community to do more. So we're happy to be here today. Just getting my screen set up here. Can y'all see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. So yes, we are Florida Friendly Landscaping, and I'm happy just in the chit chat this morning to hear that previous agent with Orange County Extension was in the Rotary Club and, you know, helped to lay the groundwork for Florida Friendly. So it's not a historical program per se, but you know, a lot of what Extension does is evolved into you know, Florida Friendly and other types of programs. So, and just to kind of back it up for a second, for those of you that don't know what IFAS Extension is, we're an extension of the University of Florida, and we're in each and every county in Florida. We have an office, you know, that does 4-H youth programming. We do family consumer sciences and financial literacy. We do agricultural master gardeners, lots of great science-based programming that to me feels a natural fit with Rotary Club. So great to be here. So diving into Florida Friendly Landscaping, you know, we are a landscaping program, but really at the heart of it, it is a water quality, water quantity program. So we strive to have beautiful, attractive, colorful landscapes that use less water and save money, but also conserve water and preserve the surface waters of our state for future generations. So you can see here in this graphic, this is from the Central Florida Water Initiative. which is a conglomerate of the utilities, OUC, I heard mentioned earlier, and other utilities throughout Central Florida. It's also the Water Management District and other water stakeholders that come together and make a plan for our future for the water of Central Florida. And when they, kind of crunch the numbers, where we're currently at for water supply in our groundwater is 800 million gallons per day is used in Central Florida. When we project out to 2035, we're actually showing a 300 million gallon per day increase. The groundwater can support an additional 50, which you see here in this little bar, but the 250 million gallons per day is not there. And so that has to really come from conservation efforts. So when we think about our landscaping, it's a big one. So about 50 to 60% of home water use is actually in the landscape. So it's great to turn off the faucet while you're brushing your teeth and all that interior, water-wise appliances and things. But making sure your irrigation is calibrated correctly is paramount when we're talking about water supply for the future. So Florida Friendly, it has these 9 principles, and we're going to share them with you today. These are in the Florida law. They're in the code and, passed by our state. So each and every one of these is kind of part of the right for Floridians to integrate into their yard. Now, if you live in an HOA, it is important the HOA still has the ability to approve or decline, different aspects of Florida Friendly, but they have to find a way to accommodate homeowners to integrate Florida Friendly landscaping practices into their, into their yards. So it all starts with right plant, right place. We talk a lot about irrigation, mulch. All of our presentations to the Rotary clubs in Seminole County were about fertilizing appropriately. And that's because we have our fertilizer ordinances, which are, have been passed in law by the counties. We actually have a tri-county fertilizing effectively workshop coming up. Tia and it talks about the laws in Volusia, Seminole, and Orange counties on October 13th, and I'm happy to provide information about that if you're interested. Recycling yard waste, so that's like composting and reusing what our yard creates so that we can enhance our soil. Attracting wildlife, that's part of Florida Friendly. As we develop, we create less green space, and so we want to foster that in our landscapes. Controlling yard pests responsibly. And then, like I said, it's really a water quality program. So looking at our watersheds, thinking about, not blowing leaves down the storm drain, vegetating our shorelines, and really, helping our waterways. And just a quick note on that, I actually started my career at the UCF Arboretum, so that's why I gave my little thumbs up for UCF. And then I went on to work for Orange County Environmental Protection Division before moving to Seminole County. And my job was to survey the lakes, rivers, and streams of Orange County. And we do have, throughout Orange and Seminole, we have several water bodies that are listed as impaired by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection. And that means that the county and the taxpayers have to pay, to remediate those lakes and streams. And so what we can do as a prevention, really is Florida Friendly landscaping. So again, it starts with right plant, right place. We want to think about the various aspects of the site. We want to think about, doing a soil test. We do soil tests at the University of Florida, and you can get tested for phosphorus, for other micronutrients, for your pH, which is a big one for nutrient absorption. We want to think about the sun and the shade aspects of the site, the drainage, of course. If you have standing water, different plants are going to thrive in that environment versus a really well-drained or a dry landscape. And we want to select plants that are low maintenance. So, when we choose invasive species, some of which are sold at our box stores, that are very aggressive, we really want to avoid those because really on a Saturday, like Tia says, I'd rather be, going to the beach rather than fighting invasives in my yard. We want to think about the maximum mature height of the plant. So, when we select a plant, we might say, oh, this is really cute and I like the color, but we need to think down the road how big that plant is going to get. And that goes, for our public spaces, but also our private spaces. You can see this one here obviously is growing through the screen roof. That's not ideal, right? And then maybe Tia can chat it in the chat box, but we have this book, which is totally free, really, really helpful. You can get it for free as a PDF. It's called the Florida Friendly Landscaping Guide to Plant Selection and Landscape Design. And it helps you understand what plants might go in the right place. So if you have a really wet area, it has little water droplets to try to figure out, what plants might be suitable for a really wet area, or, vice versa. So definitely check out that resource. We want to use ground covers, where it's difficult to grow grass. So I get a lot of people in our turf grass, clinic that we have with the master gardeners at our office. Of course, everything's virtual right now, but we do still have people, sending pictures and that kind of thing. So, saying I've replaced my sod 3 times. What am I doing? And what's happening? What can I spray? Sometimes turf isn't a good fit for the area. When we think about tight areas or areas around trees, so like these pictures here, we're going to be having to mow or weed whack right up to it, and that can be a little bit of a maintenance issue. And so when we select low ground covers such as ferns or like this Asiatic jasmine, it's kind of more of a set it and forget it. Once you get it established, and where I live in Winter Park area, you can see a lot of the mature Florida-friendly plants that really, once they're established, they do very well. So again, here you can see kind of this little teeny tiny strip of turf. So when, we go to maintain that, it's going to be a little bit of a maintenance, problem. So if we were to just kind of extend this bed out, maybe utilize mulch or a ground cover instead, it would be better. And another thing from the Florida Friendly Water perspective is grass clippings have nutrients in them. And when we have them fall onto paved surfaces and they don't get, cleaned up or pushed back onto the grass, they go into our storm drains and they make their way to the water, and then they decompose, which creates more nutrients. And that's really the big battle with our surface waters right now is so many nutrients coming in from, septic tanks, fertilizer, dog poo, all different aspects, agriculture, a lot of finger pointing, but really when we look at the data, it comes from everywhere. So anything we can do, even within our yards, these little grass clippings do add up. And then, again, just maintenance where we can see here getting this grass, obviously we can't mow it, so we have to weed whack it, but then we have our trees. So maybe even just instead of this, using some native grasses, bunching grasses that get 2 to 3 feet tall, look beautiful in the fall, the muley grass blooming, and, again, set it and forget it, kind of a low maintenance, trim it once a year and you're good. So there's a lot of beautiful plants that you can integrate to help with that. So watering efficiently, definitely want to water in the morning when the wind is calm and the temperatures are cooler. I mentioned about 50% of our water goes to our landscape. So making sure that our irrigations are set properly and, applying. Everybody always asks me, Tina, what's the right time? How long should I set it? Well, the thing is all of us have different pressures and rotor heads or micros or, different spray types. So the magic amount is 3/4 of an inch. So 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch is what you're looking for. And you can actually just put some cans, like tuna cans around your yard, turn on your irrigation system and see how much water is put out in a matter of 15 minutes. And then you can easily from there calculate, you know, how long you need to run your irrigation system to get that proper 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. We don't want to, you know, water during the high point of the day, because we are going to lose a lot to evaporation, which just kind of wastes your water bill, but also wastes that precious water in our aquifer. And so the St. Johns River does have standards for, you know, they do regulate when you can turn your irrigation on. This time of the year up through November, we're allowed to do twice a week. When we get into daylight savings time in November through March, it's actually once a week. And the University of Florida recommends actually once every 14 days to water turf during the dry season. And that's because it's not growing. So, you know, once we start to get cooler, even though it's Florida and we have those warmer days, a lot of our vegetation starts to go dormant. And so it doesn't require the watering. If we continue to water, you know, over water, we can have, you know, weeds grow, fungus harbored, and various types of pathogens. And we're also creating, you know, we're not promoting that deep root growth that we really want to see. So, you know, when we're just putting a little bit every day, we really prefer to enhance that root system by doing it, you know, occasionally. So fertilizing appropriately, I mentioned we do whole classes on fertilizer. So this is just really the main hot points. We never fertilize within, it's actually 15 feet of any water body. We do have a buffer zone that's 10 feet. So, you know, we don't recommend mowing. We want to keep it low maintenance around our water bodies, and that includes stormwater ponds for our communities. We never want to fertilize within 24 hours of a rain event. And in Orange, Seminole, and Volusia counties, we have what's called a restricted period. And that's from June 1st through September 30th, where you're not actually allowed by law to fertilize your lawn. You know, this was a bit of a contentious political aspect, but, you know, in the end, the laws did pass. And so you can see here on the calendar, from June through September, there's actually no fertilizing of turf or landscapes. Now, there is an exemption for fruit trees and for vegetable gardens and the like, but you really want to be fertilizing in March through May. And that's because, like I mentioned, we're dormant December, February, January, you know, and even parts of March. So your really fertilizer times are April and May. And what you want to do is use a slow release fertilizer. So that's nitrogen that's going to be kind of spoon fed to your plant. It's ideal for the plant, and it's ideal for our waterways. So selecting a 50% or more, in Seminole County, it's actually 65%. Slow release nitrogen fertilizer, using it in the spring is perfect for both our waterways and our turf. And the law also, because our soils are rich in phosphorus, we know that by soil tests, it's actually a law you cannot use phosphorus. So when you look at a bag of fertilizer, it's actually that middle number should be 0. And that's the phosphorus amount. So it's always nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. And those are the nutrients for fertilizing. Mulch, you know, it might seem silly, but mulch is really a fantastic addition to your landscape. So good that they actually made it its own principle, because what it does is it buffers that soil temperature. It inhibits the weed growth, and we recommend about 2 to 3 inches of the mulch, and it'll naturally kind of settle after a while. So, you know, a couple, maybe 1 to 2 times a year is usually good. And it also, when it breaks down, it adds that really important organic material to our soil, so that we can, you know, we start off pretty much with beach sand here in Central Florida. You might have, you know, some phosphorus and maybe a little bit of organic material, but really the organic material is typically going to be very low. So anything that we can add, compost or mulch, is going to really enhance that. And so we really recommend that you guys select, you know, certain types of mulch that are like recycled mulch or pine needles or different types of more sustainable mulches over, say, cypress mulch. And this is kind of a big thing now with hurricanes. You know, our wetlands are really important, and so cypress trees help preserve those wetlands. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tia.
Okay, thank you, Tina. And I did put the link to our upcoming fertilizer workshop in the chat box, so you guys can check that out. So I'm going to talk about the last 4 Florida-friendly principles. And my name is Tia Selasy, and I am the extension agent, the same position as Tina, Florida-friendly landscaping for Orange County. And so Orange County is huge. We have 1.3 million people. And it's really important that we teach people these principles so they can take care of their landscapes in an environmentally friendly way. So on to principle number 5, which is to attract wildlife. One of the biggest problems in urban environments is that as they become urbanized, they're losing all of the plants and trees that are native and often replaced with just a few species of ornamental plants that have low wildlife value. And I'm saying they don't have a lot of flowers, they don't have a lot of fruit, and they're not providing food for the native insects, the pollinators, the butterflies, the hummingbirds and birds and other wildlife. And so what we want to do is encourage people to plant more of these wildlife providing plants in their yard. Next slide. So here's some basics of creating wildlife habitats. So you want to plant a variety of plants. And like I said, some of the new landscapes, they have maybe 10 species or less. So increase the biodiversity of your landscape and plant plants of different heights, so low, medium, tall, and this will give plants and birds and animals shelter to, you know, make their nest and hide from predators. And then also provide a food source, like nuts, berries, seeds, and a lot of these native plants like a Chickasaw plum will have little plums on it. You know, humans can eat them, but they're more, you know, suitable for birds. And then also add a water source, such as a bird bath or a little pond or just a little cup to hold water. And so all these strategies can help you to attract wildlife to your backyard and provide a place for them instead of displacing them in our local communities. Next slide. So principle number 6 is managing pests responsibly. And this is a big one. As extension agents, people call us and they say, I got a bug, what can I spray? And so first of all, you know, we need to learn how to coexist with bugs, and having cockroaches in your kitchen, that is one thing, but, you know, having insects outside is, it should be okay. So set realistic expectations and don't expect you're going to live in Florida and have, you know, a bug-free, you know, pest-free, disease-free, weed-free environment. It's just out there. We're Florida. We have all kinds of stuff. And then we recommend using integrated pest management, or you'll hear it called IPM for short. And that starts with scouting, just like looking for bugs, checking for bugs, and then identifying the insects. Most of you can know what bug that is on the picture on the right. That's a ladybug, and the ladybug is eating an aphid. So identify the bug. If you don't know what it is, you can email us. That's what our job is to help advise you on that. And then start with the least toxic methods, using organic or natural pest controls first, and then more toxic pest controls last. Like anything with a skull and a crossbones on it, that should be your last resort, because not only is it harmful to the environment and lasts a long time, but it's also harmful to yourself as you apply it. So here's just some examples of good bugs. The green lynx spider in the top left, that cute little guy, he's a good bug. Spiders eat insects. And then the green lacewing. Some of these you might not just recognize as beneficials, like the praying mantis. Most people know that, in the ladybug. But there's a lot of other beneficials in your yard, so get to know them.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, if you have a landscaping company, check and see if they're doing what we call routine pesticide applications, because we really don't recommend that. It's not going to prevent any, damage. What we want to do is scouting, like Tia said, so that we're out there in the landscape looking for insects and saying, okay, is this a good bug or a bad bug? And we're always here, like she said, to help understand.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So when you do decide you need to, maybe spray something or treat a pest for a reason, part of the strategy is biological control, where you're attracting beneficial insects. So if you have an aphid infestation, you're like, what do I do? Well, one solution is just to leave it, and then the ladybugs will come and eat the aphids. And so you can attract these beneficial insects to your yard by providing the food for the wildlife, providing flowers that provide nectar and pollen, and just having a good diversity of plants will make your landscape more ecological. We talk about an ecological landscape where it kind of maintains itself rather than always needing inputs. And so pictured on the right here is the assassin bug, which is another beneficial insect. Next slide. So Florida Friendly Principle number 7 is to recycle yard waste. And this is something everybody can easily do at home. And we're developing, new strategies as Florida Friendly Landscapes, like the picture on the lower right, where you just kind of let the pine needles, let the tree leaves fall directly into the landscape bed and just rake them into the bed. So you're creating self-mulching beds. You can do this as many places as possible in your yard, but then if you still have extra organic waste to dispose of, then you can get a composter bin, like pictured there in the top right. That's just a normal backyard composter bin. The city of Orlando has a program to give those out. The city of Winter Park also has a program where you take a composting class and get a free bin. And you can use those bins to compost your food waste, compost your leaves. Your grass clippings are also better left on the lawn, like self-mulching. But if you have extra grass clippings, you can add some of those. And what this will do is will retain the nutrients in your landscape. All of that organic matter, it contains nutrients that will be released back into the environment, just like a forest. Nobody fertilizes the forest. It's just all the nutrients are recycled. So the same principle applies here. Next slide. And so building soil health is kind of a complement to the recycle your yard waste, because you really need to build your soil. Building soil is the foundation of a healthy landscape. So if you want a healthy landscape, then pay attention to the soil. And Florida soils are so poor and sandy and really lack nutrients. So adding any type of organic matter, like compost, mulch, vermiculture, or plant or animal manure, that will just really help. There's so many benefits, and the benefits last for a long time too. They help to retain soil moisture because the organic particles attract water. They also help to attract and hold nutrients. So preventing nutrients from leaching, in heavy rains. And they'll just provide those nutrients long-term to the plants to overall keep your plants healthy, for many years to come. So as you add compost and mulch, that will be biodegrading and returning to the soil, and then it will help all the plants grow. Next slide. So principle number 8 is to prevent stormwater runoff. And this is big. This is a big thing that is easy to do. So what happens in our environment is that excess nutrients lead to excessive aquatic weed and like algae blooms. And this reduces the water clarity and quality, like you see on the picture to the left. I mean, there's some beautiful lakes in College Park in Central Florida, and we don't want any of our lakes to be looking green. And the water quality has been declining over the years. There's a lot of impaired water bodies, according to the EPD. And so when the water quality declines, this can lead to fish kills and just overall, you know, loss of recreation, loss of aesthetic value, and damage to our environment. Next slide. So what you can do to protect our waterways is to appropriately manage the nutrients in your landscape. So grass clippings is one of them, and we call this grass cycling, where you leave the grass clippings on the lawn. So if you use the mulching setting on your mower and just mow your grass and let the grass clippings fall and return the nutrients to the lawn, not only are you saving our waterways, you're making less bags and hauling it to landfill. So that reduces our environmental impact too, but you're adding all this fertility to your lawn. And by doing this, you can even cut back on having a fertilizer application. Like maybe you just fertilize once in the spring and skip the fall one because you've been cutting your grass and using your grass clippings all summer long. So the picture on the right, having the grass clippings in the storm gutter, that is illegal. If you ever see that, you can call the EPD. And of course, those grass clippings and really nothing should be in those storm gutters. So blow them back into your lawn, rake them and bag them. And especially before we get heavy rains, you know, before we get a hurricane, part of your prep should be, you know, clearing out those gutters, because all that stuff will go into our water bodies. Next slide. So everybody lives in a watershed, and here is a picture of, you know, a sample watershed. So we get the rain and it carries everything off with it into the water bodies. And so by taking steps in your landscape, you can prevent these nutrients from getting in our water, you know, which is so valuable and we use as drinking water. And so I talked about grass clippings, but we also need to be aware of fertilizer, keeping fertilizer off of paved surfaces, you know, applying at the right rate and at the right time of the year. And also pet waste, like dog poop, always pick that up and bag it and throw it in the trash, because dog poop contains a lot of nutrients and also harmful pathogens for our environment that we do not want to get into our waterways. Next slide. So wrapping up here, Florida-friendly principle number 9 is to protect the waterfront. And we have really valuable water resources in Florida. And so it's our job to protect them. And a lot of people don't know how to maintain these areas, and they might be doing the wrong practices unknowingly. So I actually teach a class about lakefront landscaping. If you do live on a lake, you know, let me know and I can tell you when the next class is, how to plant aquatic plants in your lake. But regardless of the water body, what you want to do is establish a 15-foot buffer zone between the landscape and the shoreline. So what we don't want is mowing grass clippings and shooting them directly into the lake, or fertilizing right next to the lake where it's going to run those nutrients right into the lake. So establishing this buffer zone with plantings, that will help to filter out all the nutrients before it gets to the lake and prevent other organic matter from ending up in the lake. So that buffer zone will help to absorb the nutrient. It also provides wildlife habitat. If you go on the lakes and you just see the person has sod, right down to the lake, then that's not providing a lot of wildlife habitat, and the wildlife won't have anywhere to go, the otters and the good stuff. It also prevents erosion. So some of the soil nutrients will end up in the water, kind of bind to the soil. And so having roots will stabilize it, especially grass roots like clumping grass, like sand cord grass. And so all these strategies will help to protect, the waterfront from the runoff and the chemicals and the nutrients and the extra sediment. Another thing you can do is remove invasive exotics. I'll just briefly mention this, but you might be familiar with Brazilian pepper or torpedo grass, and these are invasive exotics that can just grow so fast and then smother out our native vegetation. So we want the native vegetation because it's beautiful and it's healthy for our environment, and our local wildlife and pollinators have co-evolved with the natives. So you may need a permit if you're on the waterfront and you're doing work in the lake, and I can walk you through some of those details if you need. Next slide. So again, here is a healthy looking lakefront. So you can see that in the water, there's water lilies, and then on the shoreline, there's the duck potato, the clumping grass, and the pickerel weed. So it could be a little thicker, but if somebody had this, we would be totally happy versus having, bare soil or spraying it or mowing it down to the lakefront. So again, keep that low maintenance zone on any water body, whether it's a retention pond or a lakefront. And so that kind of wraps up the lakefront part. Next slide. And so just a couple tips to leave you. Some things that you can do, some of the resources that we have available from our state office. So the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program is part of the University of Florida, and our state office in Gainesville. We have extension agents in many of the Florida counties, and we have some great resources for you that you can find on our state office website. So one of the resources is how to integrate FFL restrictions and covenants into your HOA guiding documents. So if you live in an HOA, this is a great publication that you can find. Also, if you're hiring a landscaper, number 2 here, we can advise you how to look for a good landscaper and make a landscape contract, that tells all the Florida friendly practices in it. If you're just hiring somebody for your own yard, you want to verify your landscaper is GIBMP certified, and that's just talking about the green industry best management practices. So people like myself and Tina teach the contractors, the landscapers, how to properly fertilize in Florida to prevent harm to the environment. And they should be licensed with FDACS, which is this licensee agent for the GIBMP program. And then just tell your friends and your other Rotary Club members who weren't able to be here today about Florida Friendly Landscaping, because we all want to protect the environment, and we all want to have good water quality and enough water to sustain us for the ongoing future. And then enhanced common areas. A lot of people, a lot of communities are making a community butterfly garden, planting a little common area with some beautiful plants and installing signage to educate the community and the public about Florida friendly landscaping. Next slide.
I was telling them you have one in downtown Orlando.
Yeah, we have a demonstration garden at the Orange County Administration Building. So you can just walk and check it out anytime. It's on the southwest corner. And so that wraps up our talk today. I hope you learned something about Florida-friendly landscaping. We do ask you to complete a brief survey. It's only 6 questions and takes less than 2 minutes. If you want to use your smartphone and scan the QR code there. And then both of my and Tina's emails are posted here. So you can write us down, email us with any questions anytime, and then keep posted for some of our upcoming events. I have a Facebook page that's called Florida Gardening. And what's yours called, Tina?
We are the IFAS extension in Seminole County. So we pretty much funnel all our events on Facebook through that page.
Yeah, so just Google IFAS extension, Seminole County, Orange County, and you'll be able to find us. So thanks so much, and we'll take any questions.
Yeah, and I did actually see in the chat, somebody was wondering how to find a landscaper. And I put a few links in there. So we have our main fertilizeflorida.com, which is kind of the Seminole County portal for all of the everything fertilizer. And on there, there's a link to our landscaper checklist. And so if you're hiring a landscaper, it's just kind of something that you can go down that checklist to ask them about. And it includes the GIVMP, the Green Industries certification. I also included a link to where we host all of the names of people that have gone through our classes. So they can actually, you know, kind of see if so-and-so has gone through that class and gotten that certificate. And then, yes, if they are doing fertilizing or any pesticide applications, they should absolutely have a license with FDACS, the Department of Agriculture. So I think we also have a link to the survey if you don't do the QR codes. Let me just put that in the chat as well. Or if Tia has it.
Do we have any questions?
Yeah,
I've got a question. This is Donovan. Thank you, Tina and Tia, for presenting today. Great information. My wife and I were trying to figure out how to store rainwater and recycle our gray water for irrigation purposes, because we like most people, we are using a lot of water on irrigation, and we don't even have any grass. So those are 2 opportunities that we're exploring. And then my second question was, what are your thoughts on the environmental impact of leaf blowers? Not only are they incredibly loud, but what's the environmental impact to our water supply?
Great questions. I guess I'll just start by saying about the rain barrels, because we do usually do, when, you know, not in COVID, we can have our volunteers make rain barrels that can be available in conjunction with our rain barrel classes. And those are a great start. They're usually very affordable as opposed to a cistern, which is also, you know, an option for somebody looking to sequester rainwater. You know, in terms of recycling the gray water, it just depends on how your plumbing is routed and how you could feasibly, I would imagine that would be easy with a new building, but to retrofit an older building might be a little challenging. But I think really the question is what species are you growing and how much water do they need? So if it is a mature landscape and there's no turf, and if you're not growing any edibles or food, they might be fine without an irrigation system. You know, and the occasional hand watering in our very dry months of April and May, you know, might actually get them through the whole year. So I think just kind of reassessing what vegetation you have, and, you know, and thinking about it that way. Tia, any comments?
Yeah, we also recommend rain gardens. So like next to my rain barrel, the water gets caught, but it's only a 55-gallon barrel. So next to that, you just dig a little swale, a little depression, and you could even make it into a pond, and that will hold extra water and, you know, attract wildlife, and then slowly like irrigate the rest of your landscape, kind of hold it in place. And then you are also asking about gray water, is that correct?
Well, yeah, we're interested in recycling our gray water for irrigation purposes, if we in fact need to do that. Um, so yeah, just looking for ways to store that water, and the plumbing piece we can figure out, but as far as storing that gray water and recycling that, what that might look like.
Gray water can be a little tricky. Gray water, you're talking about like water from your kitchen sink or from your shower.
Shower, yeah.
Yeah, from your shower. So, I mean, the easiest way to do that is just to have an outdoor shower, and then it waters your landscape every time you take a shower. I personally have my laundry hooked up to gray water, where the water coming out just goes into the landscape, into like a little gravel bed. But you do have to check with your, I think it's Department of Health regulations, because gray water isn't really widely acceptable. There could be some health issues with the gray water. Do you know about that, Tina? Are the Department of Health, are they kind of the regulating agency?
I think when we talk landscaping, the biggest thing is reclaimed water. So that's basically gray water on a large scale. So you might, I don't know, College Park might not be, but check with your utility provider that, you might already be on reclaimed, and reclaimed water is essentially water from our wastewater treatment facilities that has been purified, but not fully purified. And so it still has nutrients in it. It still has some bacteria, but it's appropriate to utilize on the landscape. And so a lot of the times, at a larger scale, we're already doing a gray water type thing where we're reusing that reclaimed water on our landscapes. And if you are on reclaimed, you don't need to fertilize as much because you already have nutrients in that irrigation water. So I think with that, I'm seeing Miguel's ready to move on. So again, our emails are there. If you have additional questions, please check out the links in the chat box. And thank you guys so much for having us. If there's other Rotary clubs in the county that want, I would like to have us present, have them reach out, and have a great rest of your week.
Awesome,
thanks for
thank
having
you.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Tina and TNT, for that great presentation, taking the time to present to our club and educate our members and community at large. We appreciate you.